Hey y'all, welcome back to a new season of Spectora Spotlight. I'm Carla, your new host. Today's episode is for every inspector who thinks AI or automation is some future thing they'll figure out later. Spoiler alert, you're probably already using it. Today I'm talking with Chris Skinner of Silk Inspections out of Fayetteville, North Carolina, who's built systems that save him time, reduce headaches, and give him more breathing room without needing a tech degree. We're diving into what he's automated, what's worked best, and how it's changed the day-to-day of his business. And real quick, if this episode hits home, do me a favor. Follow the show on YouTube, leave a quick review or comment, or share it with another inspector. That helps us keep delivering the good stuff and reaching more of the industry. All right, let's get into it. Hey, today I am joined by Chris Skinner with Silk Inspections out of Fayetteville, North Carolina. And we're breaking down the stuff that smart inspectors are already automating, even if you're not calling it AI. Because let's just speak the truth, most of you are doing way more with tech than you give yourself credit for. Chris has made some smart moves to save time, reduce mental load, and keep things consistent. So let's dig into what's working. So, Chris, kick us off. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what your business looks like today.
All right. Yep. So, like you said, my name is Chris Skinner. We work with Silk Inspections, and we operate in the Fort Bragg and greater area here in North Carolina. Work with a three-man team. Shout out to John and Drew. This time of the year, we're staying extremely busy. We're working about, give or take, around 30 inspections a week. And as far as what we offer for the business, I think it's pretty typical for a lot of home inspection companies. We obviously do the base inspection, and then we do radon and septic and advanced HVAC and pool and spa and all that good stuff. So we try to offer the full spectrum of services to our clients, and just in general, it seems like things are pretty successful around here. That the market is pretty active, and that keeps us happy.
Awesome. Yeah. So, when did you start realizing that something had to change? Or was there a specific moment where you thought there's got to be a better way to do this?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been inspecting for, I guess now it's been about a year and a half. And John, the gentleman who owns Silk Inspections, I actually did my shadowing with him. So after I got licensed, he, showed me his business model and the way that he inspects. And it was actually during my kind of shadowing phase of him. I was watching him as he was going throughout his home inspection process. And I noticed that his attention was going a lot back and forth between focusing his awareness on the home and then to the Spectora app, back and forth. And for me, I'm a person who's, you know, pretty consistently looking for ways to make something more efficient. And so if you're doing any sort of task repetitively, uh, then there's probably going to be some room for maximizing efficiency or streamlining a process. And so during that phase of my home inspection career is whenever it dawned on me how useful AI could potentially be. And prior to my kind of initial spark of an idea, I had already been playing around with different AI tools. And so I was somewhat familiar with the technology at its state at that time. And then, I took a few ideas that I had during that shadowing phase and built some tools that I currently use, and things have progressed quite a bit since then. So there's been a lot of benefit and a lot of fun and just learning the process, but that's kind of where it all began for me.
And that's what I've heard from a lot of inspectors who are kind of dipping their toes, in it is there's a lot of repetitive tasks that I do. Like, is there a way that AI could help? So let's talk specifics. Like what parts of your process from that have you already streamlined or automated, whether it's emails or follow-ups or templates, reminders? What's on your list?
It's a good question. So the very first and the biggest thing that I started working on was some sort of integration of AI into my actual home inspection process. So as I make my way throughout the home, I wanted to make sure that I could reduce the amount of time that I actually spend in the app filling out the report. And then another thing that I forgot to mention earlier is I wanted to reduce the number of times that I had to touch the same comment. So if you come across the same type of defect multiple times throughout the inspection, then the way that I was, shown, you go back to that same comment, you add the extra location tags, you add the extra photos or videos or whatever you're taking, whatever video you're adding. And so I wanted to reduce that to visiting each comment that's going to end up in the final report only one time. So that is the biggest and most used tool. But I also do use it for communication. I use it for both text and email communications with both clients and agents. And then there are a little bit more nuanced ways that I use it. For example, re-inspections or what we call repair verifications are a little bit more specific, and they because it depends on what items we're actually checking and how many of those. I used a specific model that I've trained to help me establish an efficient workflow whenever I'm on site. And then I would say the other main AI tool that I use helps me if I need to do any sort of research or anything on the fly in order to better familiarize myself with what I'm looking at. Then I will use, in some cases, an AI model to help familiarize myself with what I'm looking at, and it's kind of an enriching experience because I'm also learning something new, which there's almost always something new to learn in this industry.
Oh, for sure. And it's wild to me thinking that, 20, 25 years ago, there weren't even, well, 25, 30 years ago, there wasn't even software. People like to be like on the cutting edge, they were using Word documents, instead of a clipboard. And, believe me, I have talked to inspectors who signed up for software that they were using Word documents, and this has been in the past 10 years. So one of the reasons I wanted to have you on to talk about AI is it is a tool that can assist you. It is not something that will ever replace a home inspector. It's not going to replace jobs. It's going to help people streamline and do their jobs, excuse me, more efficiently. So, of everything that you've tried, what would you say has been the biggest win? It kind of sounds to me like I'm curious and I would like to hear more. I don't know if you want to share that today or at some point later for the reinspection. So, when repairs are requested based on the initial inspection report and they're made, and then, of course, you go back to the property to confirm that they were completed and all of that. Just curious what it is that you've done. So, the model that you've trained to help with that, I would like to hear a little bit more if you wanted to share.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be happy to. And I mean, when it comes to this sort of stuff, I'm an open book because I know that, to your point, things have progressed as far as the home inspection industry goes quite a bit, and it's been on a fast track. You rewind back years ago, you have the old schoolers who were walking around with clipboard, they were writing shorthand, taking photos on a disposable camera, they were having to go and develop the film, and yeah, Polaroid. And so you fast forward to today, and you have awesome apps like Spectora, and there are other options, but I've used Victor from the beginning. And I do think that the integration of AI is just a continuation of that process of integrating whatever the newest, latest, and greatest technology is in order to help streamline processes and just make your work more efficient. And the last thing I want to say to your point, and then I'll answer your question, is that um, I too believe that it's not something to be afraid of. I think any tool has the potential to be used in ways that are less than good, but I do not think that AI is going to be something that replaces inspectors. I think that boots on the ground is on site and then the communication factor and the relationship factor, because a lot of this job really is forming good relationships with clients and with agents. And I don't think that that's something that AI is going to replace. So it's the way that I view it, just as a technology, is a tool to help us do our jobs better, more effectively, more efficiently, potentially giving us the ability to impact more people. That's the way that I.
Exactly.
But anyway, so to answer the question that you asked me regarding the re-inspections, as anybody listening to this podcast who's an inspector knows full well that if you do, 5 re-inspections in a week's time, they can vary drastically depending upon, what you're actually going back to check and where throughout the home the items that you're going to check are located. And so it's a lot different from your typical inspection because as far as your inspection goes, I would assume most inspectors, they have their process. They're going to go in, they're going to start in the kitchen and make their rounds. They're going to start on the roof or whatever it is that, is your process. With re-inspections, it's a bit different because you're focusing on kind of a punch list of items. So what I've done is I've trained specifically a GPT model. Um, the report template that I have built going into a reinspection, and I will drop in. So I'll download that PDF, which obviously contains the original comments along with the media and the location tags. So I'll drop in that PDF into the GPT that I've trained, and I'll give it any other contextual information. For example, if I need to check the dishwasher, I know that I should probably start there. So the dishwasher runs while I conduct the rest of my reinspection. So I give it any other parameters that are relevant. And then I tell it to give me the most efficient workflow. I don't want to walk past something 10 times and then not check it until later. So that's what it helps me do. It helps me line up my steps and my movements throughout the entire inspection. And I have noticed a huge increase in efficiency. And then also, I don't have to spend my brain power sitting down the night before trying to figure out what my steps are going to be in preparation for the reinspection. The tool does it for me, so it gives me back my personal time, and that to me is extremely valuable. So that's one example of how I have used AI.
Yeah. And, I think that's something that's really, I don't know if it's completely understood that it's not just about writing things. I mean, you can share stuff with a GPT and say, I think that's just so cool how you've uploaded that and you're like, tell me how to do this to make it to the best use of my time, to save me time, to make it the most efficient. And so it's almost like this little sidekick admin assistant. I mean, I use ChatGPT all the time and I'm just like, go figure this out for me, please. And then I work on something else and it's like, I would take these steps. And I'm like, huh, okay. But you can kind of go back and forth with it. And it is, in particular, that tool and finding ways to use it creatively like that, I think is so cool. And, who doesn't want time back in their day and who doesn't want to just do things quickly, efficiently, and free up more time, whether that's for more inspections or whether that's giving you more time back at the end of your day, right?
I could not agree more. I could not agree more. I mean, I've noticed that I benefited from both of those things. And there are also some ancillary benefits that come along with streamlining the process. But yeah, I have found in some cases I finish up to an hour plus earlier. If I have a couple of inspections, it saves me 30, 40 minutes on each inspection. And then I have that much more time to do whatever it is that I want to do, spend it with my family. And in some cases, I kind of anticipate the benefit and I go ahead and I stack my day and I'll add an extra inspection onto the pile. And that could either free up more time another day of the week or just allows me to fit in extra work in the same amount of time. So there's a lot of different benefits and that can come along with, with using it to streamline the process.
Oh, for sure. I agree. It's the real impact. And that's the kind of metric or the kind of information that I think resonates with with inspectors because I know that a lot of times what I've heard repeatedly over the years is just there's not enough time in a day, right? And they don't want to spend their entire life inspecting homes and writing reports. And there are a lot of, I think that a lot of inspectors, and I'll ask you this. Do you think inspectors underestimate how much brain space they actually burn on repetitive stuff?
Yeah, I would say my initial answer to that question is yes, because I think that we tend to just get in the habit of doing what it takes to get something done. And whenever we get used to that, we kind of condition ourselves to, again, do whatever it takes to get done. But whenever you start finding ways to kind of trim the fat, so to speak, and then there you are sitting at the end of your day, you're back home 30 minutes, an hour sooner than what you normally would be. It really puts into perspective how much time you spend doing those repetitive tasks, whether it is just sitting and thinking and trying to plan something out, or whether it's actually trying to take action and do something while you're at a home doing an inspection. But yeah, to go back and answer your question, absolutely. I think that people would be surprised how much time they spend doing those repetitive things.
So yeah, I think like the real time savings, and I know there's three inspectors at your company at Silk Inspections, correct? So for even larger multi-inspector firms that have, 5, 10, 20 inspectors, if each of those inspectors could save an hour a day, I mean, it's just crazy to me how big this is for the bottom line and how critical it's just so necessary. I think is necessary part of the industry and the business today is to look at these tools that will make you work smarter, not harder, and feel less scattered and change what your day looks like. And there are tools out there available for that. So I do want to talk about like, what would you say to an inspector who's skeptical about automation? The reason I'm asking this question is because I have talked to lots of inspectors who are, I will never use it. It's not going to replace me. And I'm like, it won't replace you, but maybe it would probably be good to look into it. What would you say as an inspector to an inspector who is watching this or listening to this and is skeptical about looking at these tools?
That's a really good question. So I think this that it's important to adopt a perspective that serves you whenever it comes to how you look at AI. Trust me, I totally understand the tendency to try to stay away from change. If you have found a process that works for you and you feel comfortable doing that, you don't necessarily see the benefit in trying to attempt something new or shift things up because, again, you're comfortable with it. But as with pretty much anything in life, if you get comfortable, at least in my opinion, it's a perfect opportunity to kind of shake things up and try something new because whenever you do so, it always offers you some sort of benefit. And I think that, integrating this technology is absolutely no different. So, adopting a healthy mindset and a healthy way to actually view what the AI technology can do for you, I think is a really good place to start for someone who is resistant to that change, specifically in relation to this technology. If you can just imagine having just remove the idea and the concept of it being AI out of the picture completely. Imagine if you had a human assistant at your disposal who had the wealth of knowledge that happened to be similar to what these AI models have at their disposal. What would you have this human companion do for you to help make your business more efficient? How would you have it help you determine what your day to day looks like? How might you have that human assistant help you streamline your actual home inspection process or any sort of business overhead that you do day to day, week to week? And if you can come up with even a single idea that you would have this human assistant do for you to help make your day and your life and your business a little bit better, then reintegrate the idea of AI, because more than likely there's something that that AI technology that can do that is in alignment with what you would actually have a person do for you. And another good thing about using an AI tool is there are plenty of free versions out there that you can utilize. So instead of having to pay someone hourly or a salary, you can use a free tool to help benefit. Absolutely, and benefits. And yeah, there are some paid versions of tools as well. So sure, costs may re-enter. But I'm telling you, just from my own perspective and my own experience, integrating the technology has a ton of benefits, not just a saving of time, but I know for me personally, it's actually made the process of inspecting a home more enjoyable. So you can't beat that.
Love it. All right. Well, that wraps part one with Chris Skinner of Silk Inspections. And if any of this is resonating or you're just more curious, wait until part two. We're going to dive deeper into AI tools, what's working and what's not, and how inspectors can get in on the action without getting overwhelmed. Stick around and stay tuned for that. Okay, so how many things did you realize you're already automating? Big thanks to Chris Skinner from Silk Inspections for keeping it real and showing how simple changes can make a huge difference. Next time, we're taking it a step further. What happens when you actually start playing with AI tools? Not hypotheticals, but real tools, real results, and maybe a few face plants along the way. So don't miss it. And hey, if this got your gears turning, leave us a review or a comment, follow the show, or send it to a friend who's still drowning in admin tasks. See you in part two.